In front of the pile of corpses, we see a dark figure. This scary-looking man then casts a spell to summon Lord Arivos. Upon descending, Lich looks at his follower, complimenting his loyalty. The man wants to report something before they go for Haston. He tells the Lich that an unexpected party has gotten involved. Lich already knew about it, and confirmed that the person he mentioned was the one clad in armor, leaking the aura of undead. But the man was talking about another person, giving a feeling of containing darkness. Lich thinks about it. He knows something but is sure the person would never make a move. He says, nothing else matters. To obtain the Empire, we must conquer Haston first. He says this place is vital for their great plan. Lich has sent someone to the underground cells as support in the Lord's castle and asks if the man also needs some support for the uninvited guests. Man declines and says, I will request that if needed in the future. Lich disappears after that. Afterwards, the man thinks, not much time is left until undead descend upon the entire surface. Soon there will be no one capable of stopping us. Unless that monster comes. Back in Haston village, Boss asks Melge to find the location of the person who cast that spell. Melge replies there is no way to be sure. However, giant magic spells like this normally use the flow of mana on the surface to maintain themselves, which means that the caster should be nearby to maintain it. There is a way to use an item to constantly direct the flow of mana. For a spell to cover entire Haston and for the item to support it, it should contain huge quantities of mana. She said, pointing towards the Lord's castle. Something like that cannot just be buried in the ground. The most likely place it would be hidden would be there. And then, Boss started yawning, thinking, I don't know what they are up to, but I'm sure they will come running out if I just turn this place upside down. Boss stands up and gets himself ready to go to the Lord's castle with Melge. He says it's about time that one of the 7 evil dungeons were replaced. In the meantime, in the castle, we see Pedrick looking down a hall. This place is the most suspicious. The smell of rotting corpses coming out of here is a lot stronger than before. On top of that, this underground prison that is useless in such times, the sound coming from the innermost place. Suddenly something appears in front of him. A beast holding a giant cleaver. Pedrick asks, I am sorry to bother you while working, but who is your master? The beast turns around and attacks him. Our sturdy skeleton just blocks the attack with his hand, saying that it's too slow. For you to openly be doing something like this here means that guy, and even Haston's lord, is in on all this, as he smashes the cleaver the beast was holding. He puts his hand inside the beast's mouth and rips him with just a downward movement. Suddenly he noticed something behind him. Something makes his helmet fly in the air. When he turns around, there is an undead standing there named Dullahan. For it to appear here, what could its plan be? He asks the undead. On whose orders are you guarding this place? No reply is given, it just attacks Pedrick. The sword this undead is using is the evil sword. It's tricky to deal with as it corrodes the opponent's weapon. He asks if they can talk it out as fellow undead, but it keeps attacking. Pedrick feels no use in talking with the intelligent undead. Well, the lord of this place could explain the reason for it being here. Pedrick uses a low-class magic called Glide Panel, making the undead lose his footing. Grabbing the broken cleaver, Pedrick hits against the undead. He also grabs the undead sword from its waist. By virtue of one skill, Heavy Sword Great Axis, he decimens the undead in one strike. After this, we see the Lord waking up after feeling a little cold. He notices Pedrick standing right by her. She shouts, how dare you come here in the middle of night? Pedrick replies, isn't it evident that I have some work with you? Pointing his sword towards here, he says, my dear Lord Lala, I will give you exactly 5 minutes to call upon the man who was with you some time before. I regret calling you at such an ungodly hour of the night, but I waste to happen to pick this up on my night walk. As he placed Dullahan's head on the table. Why are you working with an undead? He asked Lala, who in turn denies that she did not know anything about that. Pedrick says disappointedly, are you gonna keep up the act until the end? If you are not acting, do you really know who you are working with? Looking at the person wearing cape. He says there is no point in hearing these nonsense. Pedrick replies, I'll personally kill that in the mansion's basement prison. He drew his sword saying, mountains of dead bodies are buried in the dungeon. If I would give you another hint, the one whose shoulder is yours is an undead too. Lala yells no, presenting a counter-argument. She says, me this very man who has brought me the news of Hastings' salvation, and you charging him of being an undead is threatening the safety of Hastings. Pedrick replies, are you saying that you already know exactly who has been threatening the safety here? Man in cape tries to cool down the situation, saying, you said that this is Helm of Dullahan earlier. Those not are being not so easy to come by. Pedrick says, I know, I was surprised as well. I doubt myself, seeing such a high level of undead in a place like this. Further, that Dullahan really felt a bit off. It did not talk when it should have the intelligence to do so, being an elder and dead variant. The way it moved during the fight didn't seem normal either. So I investigated it a little after burning up his soul. Look at this, there was a mind control magic circle engraved inside this armor. Alongside the name of the owner, the name of the Dullahan is Masham. Name seems to be of a raid force's vice captain, Masham and Harder brothers, gathered to raid brutal undead 30 years ago. It was said he was a pretty strong knight. However, it seems that he simply vanished after the raid. Now who do you think the undead were that he was trying to raid? Pedrick aims his sword at the man in the cape and says, where is the brutal undead, Irivos, Mr. Undead Underling? Lala interrupts them, saying, I don't understand what you mean. Why is the name of a boss of the great evil dungeon called out here? The cape man starts laughing. Lala yells, saying, you said that you would save me and the territory. The look of the man's face suddenly turns into a wicked one. He even says that the plan itself might be changed. I suppose nothing can be done. There is no chance of peaceful resolution now. Man tries to attack Lala, but Pedrick cuts his arm off, telling them to just stay still. Caveman says, I am a human. I am going to kill you, everyone else in this territory, and turn it into a land of dead. Feeling a bit insulted, he says, you should feel heightened that humans like you are getting this chance to be saved. As he changes into his true form, he says, all according to our Lord's plan. This in turn has Pedrick say, I was not even able to imagine such a thing at first. Are you not the undead race that mainly fights with numbers? I never expected them to invade in such an organized and well thought out manner. Ahumo says, I took interest in you the moment I first saw you. I shall congratulate you on surpassing my expectations by killing Masham. You too are an undead like me. Why are you not serving under Lord Arivos? Lala is confused hearing that. Pedrick thinks, guess I was caught. We still need a lord to take care of the land and cooperate with us. I don't really want to kill her. Pedrick cuts Ahumo's arm again, saying, my mood turned sour because of you. Ahumo says, did you really think that threats would work on an undead? Pedrick replies, of course not, but don't you have much to lose? You should now, in case you have done your investigation, but the man who came with me is a lot stronger than you may think. So strong that he can easily spoil your plans. I'm sorry to tell you, but we are not on the side of humans. You should explain everything instead of wasting your time. Ahumo replies, do you know how an elder comes to be? For a normal human, or an elf, to become an elder, either a super rare supernatural phenomenon, or a large amount of hatred surpassing it is needed. The reason they are called elders is because they have the power to fight 1,000 zombies by themselves. Lord Arivos is an all-powerful being who can just make those elders with his magic. It is all to make an elder, and so we needed humans who have a living body but a weak soul. The place was perfect to gather fellow undead. The isolation is to starve them, weaken their resolve. The same can be said for why we created the religion. With the mountain of corpses in the underground jail, we are going to create even more elders. We're going to destroy the Empire. Pedrick thinks that if the Empire is to be destroyed and all the humans in it turn to undead, then with the great power Rivos would have obtained, his target would be the 7 great evil dungeons. Suddenly Ahumo cast a curse magic, saying, did you think I would be able to cast magic if you cut off both my arms? How foolish. There exists no being that can go against Lord Arivos. The only being able to do that, the ancient monster, goes into slumber for many years after moving. As such, there is nothing stopping the plans of my lord. Pedrick starts breaking free from the curse and says, if I were to organize all that you have said, whatever your great plans must be, if the ancient monster appears, whether it be you or Arivos, your plans will be ruined right. Suddenly the walls start collapsing. We see our boss sitting there with his perfect timing,